Thank you for staying with us. We continue here. Speaking in Parliament last week, the Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga once again promised that her department would be moving forward with plans to incorporate mother tongue languages in schools. The minister added that education was highly valued and that the department wanted to encourage pupils to learn in their home languages wherever practicable. To unpack this story further, I'm joined now by Chairperson of the PANSALB African Language Board, that's Professor Lolie Makhubu-Badenhorst. Prof, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. Now, the Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga says that her department is moving ahead or moving forward with plans to incorporate mother tongue languages at the country's schools. Firstly, what do you make of the steps being taken in this regard? And does this point to the inroads to facilitate and also promote the use of indigenous African languages as a medium of instruction in schools?
Firstly, good evening, Sanbona, Ndimachiloni, and thanks for having me, and good evening to the listeners. And absolutely, from our view and my view in person, it's long overdue. So it is a step towards the right direction. It is about time that that happens.
So experts like yourself are arguing that this is indeed long overdue, considering that such a move would be in line with some of the nation's plans, especially priorities insofar as the development of African languages in education. Please expand on this sentiment for us.
Absolutely. You know, when you want to communicate to somebody, you know, I don't want to quote the late Nelson Mandela, you know, that when you're speaking to somebody, you know, in a foreign language and so on and so on. But I don't want to go there. But, you know, looking at this, you know, as you indicated earlier on, that we've been advocating for this for some years now. Africa is the only continent that is fostering education in a foreign language. You go in any country, children are taught in their mother tongue, in their language. And when you come to Africa, then we start using other languages. We need to then start decolonizing our minds, decolonizing our children's minds, so that we can move forward. Because creativity doesn't come from English. When you dream, or when you want to do something, you don't dream in a foreign language. I dream in my mother tongue. I'm not sure about you, but I dream in my mother tongue. When I'm being creative, I become creative in my mother tongue. So if I were to do something, then I must then write and produce whatever I have, you know, I want to innovate in a foreign language. What does that say? So I can't be creative and be productive in a foreign language. We need to do that. And what we've realized is that there was a disjuncture as a person who's been in higher education, that in higher education at universities, we want the students to learn their mother tongue, use their mother tongue. But unfortunately, what has not been happening, the students come to university, but they were not prepared from basic education. Hence now we are saying that this is long overdue, so that by the time the students reach higher education, by the time the students or the learners, or whether the person is reaching at the stage where you need to go to work, then you started with your mother tongue. And some people, there are some myths that, you know, languages, we don't have a market for it. But unfortunately for us, it is a myth, but that needs to come to an end.
Let's expand on that sentiment. And I think it's also important to note that the majority of learners do not receive education in their home language. Speak to us about the value of even enabling learners to reach their potential through access to learning in African languages.
The most important thing is that, you know, language and culture go hand in hand. When you want to teach, you know, when you say in English, charity begins at home, or in isiZulu, lubunjwa semanzi. How can you say charity begins at home and then, you know, you expect the child not to learn in his mother tongue or home language, and then you go elsewhere? So in order for the child to excel and to perform better, and there have been studies, you know, there have been scientific researches that have been done. You know, for instance, I am here now in Cape Town. There was a study that was conducted whereby the learners that were taught in Afrikaans, assessed in Afrikaans, and have their matric written in Afrikaans, they performed better because they had their comes to an African child, they don't learn in their African languages. So hence mother tongue. So it is about time. It is long overdue. And I'm glad. Well done to the minister.
But quite interestingly, the minister has also previously acknowledged that there are issues with moving to a purely mother tongue-based system, noting that it was likely impossible to have a pure class in Sotho or Xhosa in Gauteng, the way the similar classes have been held in the Eastern Cape. What are your own observations in this regard?
Well, I would say that it is a mixed bag. It differs from school to school, from province to province. You know, in some instances, there are people that are prepared, they are ready for that, but, you know, you can't set people up for failure. You know, when, you know, speaking as an academic, I can't just go to a lecture and deliver a lecture without being prepared before. So if you want me to teach in the mother tongue and I'm forewarned, then I'm prepared. Say, for instance, you want me to come to this interview and then you catch me when I'm saying I'm on a flight and so on, what would you expect? Yeah. So, you know, you need to forewarn people, let people be ready. And for instance, you know, in some instances, people say that, you know, they argue that, you know, there is no terminology and, you know, people called switch and so on. So be it. You know, Afrikaans is where it is, English is where it is because of code mixing. So we need to start somewhere. You know, we can't be perfect. We cannot get it right from the onset. You know, I must be honest with it. But there will be instances where we will just, you know, hit it going and then we'll get it all right. But, you know, I can't say that, you know, it will be 100%. We will have teething problems, but we will get there. But we have to start somewhere. But I'm glad that the minister was bold enough to say that, you know, we are going ahead with this. And I'm 100%. And we as the South African show that the environment is conducive for multilingualism. And even with this interview right now, you're interviewing me in English. English is my 9th language. I was expecting you to request Sotho, Sithethe, Botswana, yes, and so on. But Sekulume and so on. But you know, now, you know, as I'm talking to you, I need to translate. So you can imagine if I need to unpack concept in class, I'm nervous about the exams as a learner. Then I'm on top of that, then I must still think in a foreign language, you know. That is that, you know, and unfortunately it is sad for an African child. But, you know, we will get it right someday. And I'm glad that that is now happening in my lifetime.
We will get it right someday. Well, Prof. Minangibonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho. That was board chairperson of the Pan-African Language Board. That's Professor Lolie Makhubu-Badenhorst speaking to us there about comments being made by the Education Minister saying that her department is moving forward with plans to incorporate mother tongue languages in schools.